Welcome to episode 118 of the Clarity Compressed podcast. My name is Paul J. Daly. I will be your host, and today we're breaking protocol because if I have to listen to one more Zoom call, one more press conference, or one more in-depth podcast about the pandemic, I might just explode. We're making our way through the fog of life, and clarity is understanding where we are on the map. You are here.
Let the good times roll.
This is Clarity Compressed. Okay, that was a little sensational, but it really spurs from a conversation I had with a friend who's a developer, and he said, I feel like I could be a professional that works for the CDC right now because I've listened to so many podcasts and I'm so up to date. I just want to start doing normal things again and get back to work and start moving forward in a way that doesn't listen to things and talk about things that don't have to do with this pandemic. So I thought that I might be able to contribute to help his ails by changing the format up a little bit today. So no moment of clarity, no Paul's pick, but we're going right into a collection of 11 moment of clarity clips. So little short bursts. We're going to have a bunch of little short bursts. We're going to have some music under them. It's going to be fun. And I thought that not talking about pandemic would do us all a little bit of good. You know, in the beginning, we were like, hey, this is how we're going to work from home. And then I don't know how this is going to work. And then we started working from home and we were like, hey, you know, I'm getting a lot done. I thought this would suck, but I'm getting a lot done. And Zoom calls are kind of cool and it's good to see everybody. And now here we are 6 weeks later and we're like, Zoom calls are the most exhausting thing I can be a part of. Do I really have to jump on another Zoom call? So pendulum has swung the entire way, and I hope that today, in the midst of all the noise and all the pandemic talk, we could just give you something a little fresh, a little breath of fresh air in the content media podcast world. You're going to hear 11 clips that we selected that I believe have a contextual relevancy to what's going on in the world right now. So again, little clips to give us a little perspective, a little bit of clarity, help us think a little bit more broadly, and get us out of what we're in right now. Hopefully this will help pave the path forward. Let's get into the clips.
People only believe the things that they actually do. I hear a lot of people saying things and not doing things. A lot of people saying they believe in this approach, they believe in this truth. But then when you look at what they do, you find out really quickly they don't actually believe in it, because if they did, they'd be doing it. So, think about it. What are you saying you believe and what are you actually doing? Moment of clarity. People only believe the things that they're actually doing.
If you want a mature tree on your property, when is the best time to plant it? Well, 20 years ago is the best time. If you want a mature tree on your property, when is the second best time to plant it? Today. It's very easy to look back at the way things were, what you should have done, or what you wish you had, and say, if only. But the truth is, the only thing you can do about it is decide to move on it today. Decide to plant it today. Commit to cultivating it from this point forward. So don't complain about the tree that you didn't plant. Plant the tree that you can today.
There is always a valley between the mountaintops, between the hills. It's easy to have things like this pandemic is a great example. We were doing great as a country, the economy was booming, and we're on our way to other good times as a country. But before we get there, we have to go through the dip. We have to go through the hard times and the struggles before we can enjoy the view. On the other side, a little perspective for you. History has always done it. Life always does it. And there's always a valley between the hills. So we're on our way through. That's okay. That's okay. Whenever you blame somebody, you actually are taking a step further from the solution, because when you blame, you aren't willing to even stop for a second and consider the role that you had to play. You aren't even stopping to consider the whole situation. Actually, when you're blaming, you're in defense mode. So the second blaming comes out of your mouth, no. I hope it triggers in your mind that you've just moved one step further away from resolving the problem, one step further away from the solution. So stop blaming, start thinking. The work in any good relationship is never done. If you get comfortable and you think the relationship is good and the work there is done, well, then you're on your way to a bad relationship or a broken relationship. So whatever relationships you're in today, think the work, if I value this relationship, it's a good relationship, that the work is never done. And that's a really good thing, and it's okay. Do you really know? At work and in life and relationships all the time, we get frustrated over things that other people do. But if you're frustrated today or in the season, ask yourself the question, do I really know what's going on in that person's life? And do a little bit of work, a little bit of empathy, and see if you can't figure out why the person is acting that way. And maybe they need a help. Maybe they need some understanding. Maybe they have some deep hurt going on. And with a little bit of work, you might just be able to move the ball forward in a more positive way that everyone can feel better about. So the moment of clarity this week is to know which hat is at the bottom. Let me show you. Well, if you're not watching this, but I have a lot of hats on. And we wear a lot of hats in life and business. And they're all a little different. Sometimes they look the same. And they get very distracting or they get very stressful and we forget. But the real thing is, know which hat is at the bottom. Because the hat that's at the bottom is actually the most important one. And it's the one you keep closest. So make sure you know which one's at the bottom so you can keep the main thing the main thing. So my moment of clarity this week is know which hat is at the bottom. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. Everybody's working really hard, doubling down, especially working from home, and it's easy to get out of the mental health state where you get overwhelmed, you get exhausted, and if you don't do things to take care of yourself in this time, try to stick to routines, find yourself mental breaks, mental releases, then guess what? You can't take care of anyone else who's depending on you. I'm preaching to myself right now because I've been running hard. So, moment of clarity. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
People don't remember the things that you had to do. They remember the things that you did not have to do. I learned this from an auto dealer named Scott Beeler, the CEO of the West Her Group in Buffalo, New York. And the premise of this is that when people expect that something is your job to do it, they don't remember it. Because the cashier at the checkout is supposed to remember all my items, right? I don't remember her for that or him for that. However, if they give my kids something, like if they give the baby something to occupy him so he's crying, so he's not crying, well, I'm going to remember that. If I do a sales transaction with someone and I remember they're an Eagles fan and I give them an Eagles hat, it costs me $10. But if I just sold them a car, they'll always remember that I was nice enough to give them that Eagles hat. In this time when there are a lot of things and we're all working in different places and from home and people are stressed out and we have all these different, crisis personalities going on, think about what you can do for somebody that you didn't really have to do, but it would really surprise and delight them and make them feel either a little more safe, a little more comfortable, maybe just a little bit happier and have a little joy in their lives because they will always remember that. So that's the moment of clarity. People don't remember the things that you have to do. They remember the things you didn't have to do. So there you have all the clips. I hope that throughout this podcast, through listening to that, through this pandemic, we will do what the last clip said from Mr. Bob Goff, that a lot of people say a lot of things, but let's actually be doers. Let's actually do something. Let's actually make a mark in a time when we can make a mark. That comes from having perspective. That comes from having clarity. That comes from being together in a time when we can't physically be together. Thank you for spending some of your time here with me. I promised I would make it quick and short, so I'm going to close. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And may we walk through this together stronger than ever and look back at this and be really proud of the way we went through it, even though we were uncertain, even though we were scared. I will see you next week.
Yeah.